What's up, guys? Welcome back to part 2 on this 2022 Odes Dominator 800. We got the parts in. We got the clutch and belt for the motorcycle doctor, got the IAC motor and the air filter and the O2 sensor off of Amazon. Pretty cheap that way. So air filter comes complete with the housing, the whole 9 yards, air filter in there. And it comes with 3 new clamps. The O2 sensor, I'm hoping this wire is long enough because I know they make one that has a longer wire. As you can see, Continental, and this one's staying together. New clutch for the 800, it's a one-way bearing on this one. I will clean up the clutch sheaves before we install this. And it also comes with a new bolt. And then you got the Ultra Max belt that they recommend, and that part number is UA446. If you go on the motorcycledoctors.com's website, go to the search bar, type in Odes, and Odes parts will pop up. Again, you can also email Craig at motorcycledoctor.com with your make, year, model. Tell him what you're looking for, and he'll probably send you a link or try to help you out if he doesn't sell that part. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and install these bad boys. Fire this thing up. We'll check the belt deflection to show you the difference between the belt before. I can't remember. I'll have to look because I'm editing the video as we speak. The belt deflection to show you where it should ride on there and where it should not ride on your secondary clutch. And then they had some big problems, had to use a secondary or second clutch puller with longer threads to get the initial clutch off, had to heat it up like crazy. I think I talked about it in the last video. So let's jump in, reinstall these parts, get the belt on this thing, take a look at the belt deflection, and see if this thing fires up and runs properly. And we'll check all the codes with HUD Hacker ECU, and I'll give you guys the torque specs on the nuts and bolts, or I should say bolts, on the clutches also. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you look up here, it says main pulley bolt, 100 Newton meters or 73.3 foot-pounds. That's a 12 mm bolt. Driven pulley bolt, 10 mm bolt, 60 Newton meters or 44 foot-pounds. That's the way that works out on that. So if you got any questions, you guys can ask me. I got the service manual, give you some torque specs or whatever it may be. So let's get installing these clutches real quick and fire this thing up. Go. Make sure we got the spacer behind there. This spacer does not look like it looks like it's seen better days, but they have 2 spacers behind this one. We'll check that belt alignment. Remember that one's 60 foot-pounds, or I'm sorry, 60 Newton meters. Gonna have to clean the crankshaft off with some Scotch-Brite since it's really, it's rusty. So we wanna make sure that is all cleaned up, nice and smooth, so we don't run into any issues. Again, with the crank itself, or the clutch itself sticking, so we'll just run some Scotch-Brite over that. We're not gonna do anything crazy. We're not trying to rough it up. We're just trying to get any rust on the surface off where the clutch sits at. Grab an air hose. Remember, R&G Power Sports does make updated trail blocks for this. He uses them on his C-Force 1000s, but it's the same CVT clutch, not the same clutch itself, but the trail blocks are all the same between those and this. So he's got some really nice updated ones. He may even make, I know he makes the sliders too, depending on the style of clutch. The big square ones, I don't think, I think he does, excuse me, but I think this style he does. This is exactly for the 800. We'll go ahead and throw in our new bolt. This is 100 Newton meters. I do have a CV Tech clutch holder on the way, but we're just gonna go ahead and hit it with my impact anyways. And that is a 19 mil head. Big shout out to Dynamic Tools. Once again, hit shopdynamictools.com. Made in America tools. Pretty nice stuff. They got all kinds of things on there. I'll give you guys, they're hooking me up with an affiliate link to save you guys 15% off when you use my code. Still waiting for them to email me back what that is. But Dynamic Tools, man, these are pretty nice. They've worked really well. Again, that's shopdynamictools.com. And then also emanuelsonline.com. Use discount code LimitlessPower22 to save 22% at checkout. And I'm gonna guarantee that's 100 Newton meters, if not a little bit more. Again, they do make a tool to hold this and a secondary. You can order, I found them on Amazon, a few other places. Can-Am guy makes them. Can-Am parts guy makes them too. He's a good source for parts. So let's go ahead and we'll spread the secondary clutch open. We'll get the belt on. Actually, I'll spread the secondary clutch open and I'll check the alignment of the center of the clutches. Actually looks really, really good from where I can see right here. There we go. Yeah, I can tell his linkage is a little bit out on shifting, because right now I'm kind of in between reverse and neutral. So that's probably another reason he's having some, look at, ooh, 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 ooh. You see that? Oh no. Do you see that? I'm hoping it's just off. Oh, that is not good. I really hope you guys can see that. Let me bring you up here. Do you see the up and down? Oh, gotta check that. Gonna have to check that shaft. Sorry if the camera flipped upside down on that one, but that's not good. That's not good. I gotta take that bolt back out, pull the secondary back off real quick, and see if the shaft, the transmission shaft is bent, because that's not good at all. That is not good at all. I don't see anything on the shaft. I could check run out real quick. Let me check the run out on that. Okay, so I figured out what happened. The shaft is straight. I use my dial indicator and magnetic base to check that. What I just found right here where I lined them back up, I'm not, like somebody might have dropped it at one point in time, but it's got big marks there. As you spin it, you can see, I felt that you can see that up and down. So somebody had dropped this clutch on its end and screwed it up. You could maybe see where it looks like it's flared out right here. Right there, it just feels like it's flared out. So if you look, you can kind of see where it looks like it might be flared out a little bit. So that's going to cause a problem. So now I'll have to order up a secondary clutch, but we're still going to put it together and see how it runs once I get that shift linkage adjusted. So we'll tighten up this bolt. We'll slide the belt back on. Again, that is an Ultramax A446. I'll get the O2 sensor put back there, and we'll fire this thing up after I adjust that shift linkage. Check out the belt on this thing now. You see how low it's still riding in that secondary clutch? It should be just about lined up with that. So the secondary clutch is still not right on the shim, but that's okay because I'm going to order a brand new secondary clutch, and we'll get a new spacer to space it out for the 800. When you put the belt on and it's all loose, just go ahead and spin your secondary clutch like this. Just spin it back, and that'll pull that belt, that'll close that secondary clutch up, and you won't have that issue. Now, it may, when I start it and run it, and I give it gas, and it goes and clamps down on that belt and pulls it, it may raise it up just enough to where that is going to sit properly. But again, we still need a new secondary clutch because of it being dropped and bent. I'll get that O2 sensor installed, and we'll fire this thing up. All right, we got everything back in here. Let's go ahead and open HUD Hacker ECU. I don't want to worry about that right now. Let's make this thing, I'll have to get into that here shortly. We're going to connect. I know you strongly recommend that, but we're not going to do it at the moment. Connecting. Let's go check fault codes. No fault codes at the moment, so that's good. Let's go to dashboard. We'll check the O2 for voltage. We got voltage in the O2. My ignition voltage is really low. I have a jump pack on there right now. Just trying to look at everything. There we go. Idle air control valve, target position 158. So let's see if this thing will start up with my jump pack, and we can watch this belt. Let me throw my glasses on so I can see the distance there. Make sure nothing hits. Now that IAC motor is going to have to adjust itself, so it's going to take a second. Go to dashboard. We may have to connect again because of starting it up at low voltage. Okay, you can hear how it came back down. Primary clutch is spinning, secondary clutch is not. So that's perfect. Let's go to dashboard again. O2 sensor's working. Idle target 8. But you can hear how it's idling nice. Target idle speed is 1350. So right now you can see it's in between there. Charging voltage looks good. We'll go back to control. We'll check ECU faults. No faults in the ECU. So that shows you that the O2 sensor over there is working. Again, primary clutch looks good. Let's give it a little gas. Check the secondary. Nice. Grabs it right away. Let's see if it slows itself back down. I can hear it's a little high on idle again. We're a little high on idle. Check that. It should eventually work itself down. Now you can see that belt, how it's flopping like that. A lot of that's going to be due to that clutch jumping up and down a little bit. It'll have a little bit of that, but the secondary clutch has a little bit of up and down, and that puts that force on the transmission shaft. Now if you got a 17 and it whines really, really loud, that's going to be that transmission bearing in the back there. So let's take a look here again. It's stinky in the shop now. all that looks good. We're a little high on that, but I got that shifter adjusted. Data grid here, injector. The injector number 1, the milliseconds is pretty high compared to number 2. Voltage is pretty stable on the O2 sensors. It may take a little driving around to get this thing to set its all its parameters again. So I'm going to open the shop door. We'll let it warm up for a while. And like I said, you can just see how bad that's hopping. That really concerns me. We'll shut that off. Holy smokes, it stinks in here. Could definitely tell it's running rich. Again, you can see no fault codes. The cool part is, again, you hover over that malfunction indicator light. It tells you everything you need to know. If you want to know what something does, ignition coil, ignition key, speed limiter, if that's working, you just hover over it. ECU Head Hacker, this thing is great. I like to learn how to calibrate a few things, but that'll come down the road here. Like you can see tuning, you can change parameters, 3D map editor, you can edit things like that. It'll map to the Helix viewer, just all kind, or Hex viewer. You can do all kinds of things. You just got to know exactly what you're doing. Airflow cranking, just all these things. And I don't know enough about this guy to do anything, so I will have to learn a little bit about that, because these things, I hear these things do run better when the ECU is flashed, and I haven't had anything to do with that. So let me go ahead and figure out what we're going to do about the secondary clutch. I'll call my customer, figure out what he wants to do about that. I still want to put this thing back together and just kind of take it for a drive anyways, just to see how it is and see if that IAC motor starts taking care of itself. I'll leave the clutch cover off, probably just throw this piece in, throw a seat in there, hold all these guys out of the way, make sure the shifty, just make sure everything runs nice and smooth. All right, so we're in the machine. You can see the secondary clutch is not moving. Let's see if we can't see odometer. You can see RPMs 12 to 13, that's great. I'm gonna throw you guys on my chest, try to bring you up a little bit. We'll take it for a little bit of a drive. Still difficult to shift into reverse. High's fine. All right, there's reverse. E-brake is off. Just gotta make sure I'm not gonna run anything over out here. I do have a Yamaha Warrior behind me, or a Bennche. All right, get this thing. Still hard to shift even though it's setting still. Now we're in low. Just breaking in this new belt, trying to make sure that nothing's rubbing on the clutches. Stop there, high, neutral. Takes a little bit of a bump in gas to get it to go into reverse. Parks, no problem. Reverse. So it's got a little bit of a jam up inside the transmission. Now we are in neutral right now. Okay, back to that. It stops back down. Takes just a bump. Just a bump to get it to go into, whoa, high and low. High, low, give it a little bump, goes in pretty good. Again, with the new IAC motor, you want to kind of drive it around a little bit, let it help reset its parameters. A good ECU reset would definitely help that. definitely be quieter. When I do get that side cover on, the cowling on. Let's go ahead and stop. Clutch is setting still. High range. I feel like the belt is slipping a little bit. I do always talk about how you should definitely keep these in low range unless you're going over 25, 30 mile an hour. So let's stop here. Now we're up at 15, 16. Let's see if it kind of reduces RPMs, because it's going to be hard to shift when it's up around 15, 1600 RPMs. Neutral. I mean, the secondary clutch is setting still. Right to low, right to reverse. I don't know, let's go take a little drive. We'll drive up the road and see what's happening. Low range feels pretty good though. It's cold outside today. Again, I'm going to go back to high range, 17, 19, 18. The secondary clutch is still setting still. Even in neutral right now, it says 16, 17, secondary clutch is setting still, so that's awesome. Put it back in high range. We'll take a ride up the driveway. Definitely high range is, you can feel the belt move. It feels really good. I'm happy with what's going on right now. So let's pull back in the shop. This is going to be the tough part, pulling back in the shop. The reverse, no problem. Low range. So it's got a little bit of a hang up trying to get out of low or high. Ooh, you can hear that? Ooh. Reverse. Just give it a little, had to give it just a little bit of a tap on the throttle. Neutral, perfect. High, low. Back to reverse. Park is fighting me still, and now we're back in park. So secondary clutch is setting still. We're idling at 16, 1700 RPMs, a little high. Now it's starting to move a smidge. That's okay. Our object is to get this down to about 1350. We may have to adjust the screw, because I'm not exactly sure what they have done with that. I may have to adjust that a little bit to get that back down. Just got off the phone with my customer and we talked it out, and we're gonna order a secondary clutch. So I just placed that order, motorcycledoctor.com. It'll probably be here hopefully by the end of the week. So you guys will see probably part 1, and then the following week part 2, of course, is usually how it works here. Hopefully that'll be in so I can get that thing in and out of here Again, just because that up and down play like that, that can cause major issues on that output shaft, or I should say input shaft. That's the input shaft of the transmission. If that bearing goes out, it breaks that side case. You gotta pull the CVT off, the CVT cover. You can access that side case from the transmission there. You can change that bearing and everything, but it is a pain in the butt to do all that. So we decided, good call, order up a new secondary clutch from Cadet Motorcycle Doctor. His shipping's fast. He'll probably have it shipped out probably tomorrow, if not by the end of the day, depending on what time it is. Right now it is, Alexa, what time is it? Well, my doors are shut in the shop, so let's see. It's 2:44 p.m. Central Time. He's in Melbourne, Florida, so it's 3:44 there. So he may get it shipped out by the end of the day, or at least have the label made and have it shipped out first thing tomorrow, and it only takes a couple days to get here. We'll get that installed, check it all out to make sure everything is good. Again, we know that shaft is straight. I checked it out with a dial indicator. It is straight. The secondary clutch looks like it's been dropped. So we'll get that coming, get that installed, and then probably close out the video, man. I don't think there's anything else wrong with that. It felt like it drove really, really well. I want to drive it around a little bit more, make sure it shifts okay. I got the RPMs to drop back down. I had to adjust the screw a little bit because they had that turned way in for some odd reason. I don't know why. Again, he got it at auction. So we'll get that installed, and then we'll take it for another test drive. We got the new clutches in from Craig at motorcycledoctor.com. So I was just checking them out to make sure everything looks good. Now, if you look on his website, he will have quite a few different options when it comes to clutches. It'll say better or whatever. So, you know, we always get the best ones of the best. So the part numbers on these, this particular one is right, where the heck did it go? Not necessarily that there, but right, I can't even see, I got my glasses on. I had them set up right. Where'd you go? There it is. This one says 6405-3002. It's www.cvtech.ibc.com, RAAB. And I flip it over and look at the part number on the back, and it says 6410-3001. Huh, I thought that was kind of interesting. So I got the new one and I was checking it out, and the part number on this one says 6405-3002, and I flip it over and I check, and it says 6410-3002. 6410-3001 and 3002 on this side. I'm like, what would be different? I was kind of wondering that a little bit. Now, I was looking and I was measuring, and the sheave heights are the same, but it looks like the top parts here, if you could see that, the heights here were the same. The heights as far as like to the bottom of this one and that one are the same, but it looks like possibly the squeeze is a little bit off, but you can see the tops are different. You can see this one's a little bit taller than the old one. Now, they are updated clutches on these things. Again, that's been updated by CV Tech. And you can see on this one, possibly you can see how it has that spacer in there for the 800. This is the one I took apart and made sure that spacer was in there also. Again, I'm gonna put this in, and I'm gonna check on the belt deflection and height, and definitely make sure I have this thing shimmed out to where the center of that lines up really well with the center of the primary clutch. So let me get this thing installed. I just wanted to show you guys those things. And you can see this one has like a mark here and a mark there. Shows you those should line up. Again, let me get these installed and we'll check that belt height and deflection. All right, so you can see the height of the belt is a little bit lower than I would like it. I would still like it a little bit higher out of the secondary clutch. Belt deflection is not bad at all. The alignment is actually really, really good from center to center. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. All right, let the fuel pump cycle here. And this thing stops on a dime. We're at 1600 right now, 1700. Give the IAC motor a second to catch up, but you can see with it shimmed properly, even at 1700 RPMs, it wasn't spinning that secondary clutch. setting pretty much right dead center of that primary clutch. We're idle around 1400 RPMs. Let's give it a little gas. And right back to dead stop. You can hear how quiet that primary clutch is compared to the other one. Again, you can see how this works. Primary's open, secondary's closed. Give it gas. So that's how it adjusts all the gears, and it should just go right back to sitting still just like that. I am super happy with that. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and put it all back together. We'll take it for a ride. You can see that clutch is not, remember that other clutch is going up and down. I should have spun this one on camera when I was putting the belt on. That way you could watch it. The other one was going, you could see it go like that because it has been dropped and it had bent those sheaves. So they were off balance. So that creates this, that creates problems with the transmission, transmission bearings, all kinds of stuff. So now I got that one on there. It spun on nice and smooth. It actually spins really, really smooth. I mean, look at that. That is perfect belt alignment inside there. Again, where it's riding, I would like it a little bit higher, a little bit. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. That's actually pretty good as far as belt deflection goes. Now that I ran it and revved it up and everything, and it's setting where it's going to all the time. The other one sat way down inside. So let's get this thing buttoned up. Let's take it for a drive. Take a look over the unit and see if there's anything else we need to address before I give the owner a call on this and say, hey, come and get it. And there was some questions on Facebook on the Odes page about the difference between the gray plug on the stator and the black plug. So on this unit, somebody had replaced a rectifier and they got a new harness side for the regulator rectifier, and it looks like they put a new stator in it also. From what I can tell, as far as the difference is, I don't know if there's difference. The plug styles look the same as far as how they plug in and everything, but the difference I did notice, if you check this out, you can see how big these wires are. I did measure these. I will put a short on the Odes owner group about it, but these are 3.5 millimeters thick. Now the way you actually measure a wire is you strip the insulation back, measure the wire with a caliper or micrometer, and look it up. The gauge, the size, what you measured on the wiring websites, and you can tell you the gauge of it. So you can see these measured like 3.5 millimeters, and then on the OEM one, which they bypassed now and put a different stator in there, different plug and everything in there. These here are smaller. Let me try to sit you here and get these pulled back real quick. These are really significantly smaller as far as diameter goes. These were just about a millimeter, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when it comes to the amount of voltage it runs through here. These are about a millimeter smaller than the ones here. Major problem grounding, melting these plugs. So when they would come out, they'd have big wires on the stator, and then you'd see these little bitty wires on the wiring harness side. Well, all that power and all that creates heat right here at this plug. This is a natural hot spot. Anytime you have a wire that connects somewhere, is spliced together, it has a connector, that is a natural hot spot. So it would create all that power and voltage and heat on this side, and those little wires down here couldn't keep up, and that would just get hot and start melting these plugs. So now they have the same size wires on both sides. You want big gauge wires. You don't want little gauge wires for these things, because these things are running all the time, producing AC voltage, pushing it up through. So the AC voltage produces heat, pushes up to the regulator rectifier, and then it rectifies it from AC to DC, and then regulates the amount of voltage going back to your battery, and then everything else runs off of the 12-volt battery system. So if you got a bad battery or a low battery, doesn't charge very well, or doesn't, even though if your charging system's good and your battery just is junk, you will cause problems. It will cause the stator to overwork, the rectifier to overwork, burn out your stator, create a hot spot here, anything. Like I said, there's another plug up in the rectifier, burn the rectifier out. The dwell time, the spark, all that stuff is affected by the 12 volt. If you guys have really bad charging system and you're running these things low voltage, it's gonna play havoc on the fuel injection system on here and on all the electrical stuff, because it relies on a minimum of 12 volts to run properly. That is dwell time, that is the amount of spark it gets, it's all kinds of stuff. So if it's low, it creates all kinds of problems. So make sure you got a good charging system on this, and double check those wires. Again, 3.5 millimeters thick, 3.5 millimeters smaller than the gray plug. So every connector, doesn't matter what it is a natural hot spot. Okay, so try not to have like 6 different ones. It's great to have this one. It runs up, plugs into the rectifier. That way we don't have splice, 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 splice. Creates problems. Again, I'm gonna get this buttoned up and quit rambling on, and we'll take this thing for a test drive, take a look over and see if there's anything else we need to address on this 2022 Odes Dominator 800. All right, so I decided, since I'm underneath this thing and everything's off, I might as well change the transmission fluid. I'm using my phone for a light, so it might be hard to see. This one here is a drain. That one there is a fill. I like to run a 75-140 in these things. It was just some Odes had done on an update when it came to issues with the differentials back in the day. Guys still run like 80-90, but I like our 75-140. It has worked way much better, or much better. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out. I'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at the oil once it's down in the pan, and we'll go ahead and fill this back up. And you fill this back up till it starts to come back out of that hole right there. Pain in the butt to do. You can do it from the top or you can do it from underneath. I might as well just do it from underneath since I can actually reach it without the skid plate. So again, remove that bolt here and fill it right there. All right, pretty self-explanatory there and there. I'm gonna drain this stuff out. I figured I'd just hang you guys upside down. Hard to get to this thing here, and we'll go ahead and break this loose. Again, the transmission and oil are separate. Hopefully, I'm just using the light on my phone just because I was actually already in the unit and I decided to record this. I can see mud dauber's nest up there. Nothing new. Of course, it's an auction buy. The fluid actually looks, well, I knocked you guys down. Doesn't look too horrible. So I'll sit here and let this drain out. I'm gonna go ahead and probably pull this other one while I'm sitting here to give it a little more breathing room. That way it drains out maybe just a little bit quicker. There we go, it's draining out quicker now. Put some new crush washers on these suckers. We'll fill this back up. We'll take a look at the transmission fluid once it's all out. So here is what came out of the transmission. That is all the oil that came out of the transmission. Let's walk over here. Actually, I'm gonna pour that. I mean, you can see it's a little silvery. Nothing, I never saw any chunks or anything, but it's definitely got some wear, no chunks in it. But let's walk over here to my service manual up on my TV. Gearbox oil capacity. Now, this is for 1,000. We're working on 800. I'm going to look up the 800. So on a 1,000, it is almost half a quart. Half a quart is 473 milliliters. That's 450 milliliters. It says GL 490. I use 75-140. It is what Odes called for a long time ago, and I have used it ever since. I've had no problems. Now let's go to, let me see if I can get to my next picture here on the next part of my service manual. Give you guys the idea of how much the front and rear differentials are. So front oil capacity is 180 milliliters, and the rear is 220 milliliters. Again, 220 is like a quarter quart, 180 is a little bit less than that. You can just Google that. But let's jump on. Let me jump back here real quick. Let me jump out of this one. Take my glasses off so I can see. Let me get to let's get to an 800 short travel and see what it says as far as transmission on that. Double click on that bad boy, and we'll go through all the wonderful things here. That is torque specs, maintenance. Here we go. Let's back up. We'll go to overall length. So lubrication oil capacity is 2,200 milliliters, which is pretty much like a little over 2.2 quarts of oil. A quart of oil is 946 milliliters, but when you change it, it only takes 2,000 milliliters. Remember that. Let's go back here and look. There's valve clearances, 0.05 to 0.09 millimeters, and 0.10 to 0.15 millimeters on exhaust. You can change that over to inches, no problem. Let's see, let's keep going down here. I am looking for gearbox oil type, still 420 milliliters there. As far as gearbox oil capacity. And then let's check differentials. I think they're going to be the same. I don't have my glasses on, so. Rear suspension, rear diff ratio, axle. So the milliliters are the same, 180 on the front, 220 in the back. I didn't think they were any different, but I didn't want you guys saying, oh, you're doing 1,000, not 800. They're exactly the same. So that transmission was pretty much completely out of oil. I'm going to change the front and rear diff off camera. No point in you guys watching me do that. We'll put fresh 75-140 in that. Yes, it says GL whatever 90. Again, I use 75-140. It works fantastic. I haven't had any issues out of the transmissions, out of the differentials, ever since I started using that when Odes started doing it back on the 17, 18s, 19s, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting the cowling back on this. I have to actually heat that up because they glued it on to the old air cleaner, so I got to get that off of there. And then I'll change front and rear diff fluid on this thing, fire this bad boy back up, and we'll take it for a test drive and see how it runs. Well, you can see the rear differential crap that came out of there, and it's supposed to hold 220 milliliters. Let's take a look down here real quick. It's barely even dripping. That's not 220 milliliters. I'm scared to see what the front looks like. So we're done with the differential fluid in the rear. The front was actually full and not looking too bad compared to what that rear was. New transmission fluid. Engine oil looks good. It was right capacity. We've gone through and changed the primary clutch, secondary clutch, the belt, shimmed it out right. Air cleaner, IAC motor, O2 sensor. I think I got to air up a rear tire that I forgot about. Yeah, she's a little low, but I think we can go out for a test ride on it. Ran into all kinds of problems. You can see the junk back here in the back. The O2 is somewhere around here. So let's hop in this thing, see if we got the shifting problem figured out, and then just take it for a little cruise. I'm gonna have you guys in my hand, and my phone sounds like it's going crazy. The new 2026 race team chat for Warhorse HSBK Flow for Law, Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati has started, with Cameron Beaubier and Ben Smith being our two Superbike riders this year. So neutral, but it showed me that's reverse. That would be reverse. That's neutral. What is going on? That's high and that's low, but it's showing high. So not sure what is happening there. What else we got on over here? We have EPS lights on, but it's showing me reverse. And that shows me what, that is crazy. What is going on now? Thought we had this thing all figured out. So now it's showing us in reverse. Okay. Now, ooh, we'll let her calm down a little bit. We're gonna put her in park for a second. Something's pulling some air. So we're 1900 right now, and this thing was idling really good. I just put it all back together, so not sure why it's doing what it's doing. And that's a really, really interesting that's an interesting sound, but I don't know why it's idling so high right now. Let me go ahead and pop this cover back off, see if I can get to the throttle body and see what's going on. So we're back in here. Of course, like I said, that high-pitched squeal is the Y from the PCV valve or PC valve or PV valve, whatever the hell you want to call that stupid thing. Comes out of the crankcase. I had the shifting off a little bit. That was the problem there. Let's see if we got the idle taken care of. I just wanted to check to make sure I wasn't pulling on the throttle cable. So you got to remember the IAC motor is what takes care of all that right now. So that squeaking again, don't worry about that. It's the way it's pulling the vacuum out of the crankcase. Just kind of watching that. So we're in neutral right now. Now we're in reverse. To get out of here real quick, make sure I don't run over anything. Here we go. And to get back into, like, I gotta bump it just a smidge. You can see it's in high, and now it's in low. And then kind of gotta bump it a little bit, get it back to high because we're a little bit on the hill. New clutch, I'm gonna go to low. Oh yeah, that feels good. Now that high-pitched squeal is pretty annoying, but I don't know if there's much I can do about that. Oh yeah, our lovely van, the wife hit a deer the other night, so gotta deal with that. Yeah, the actuation of this clutch feels way better, way better than the other one. That soundbar back there bashing around. Slow back down. Low. Right to high. Neutral. Reverse. Park. Reverse. Neutral. High. So we can see we're a little high in the RPMs. I might try to do the Hisun style ECU reset to see if I can get that IAC motor to work right. There is a way to do it through the HUD hacker, but I have never ever been successful doing that as far as they can go steps all the way out and in. So right now it's back up to 1800 RPMs, which is not where we want it at. Now the idle screw that was all tore up in here has been readjusted. So after this thing gets nice and hot, I'm probably going to go ahead and try the ECU reset from Hisun, which is basically, again, it is a DTO or DTO5, MTO5, not a DTO8, MTO5 ECU in this. So I really don't know why the Hisun ECU reset wouldn't work as long as our what do they also call it, Hisun or whatever the heck, you know, however they would. I heard so many different pronunciations of that. So basically, once it gets hot, you hold the throttle flat to the floor for 5 seconds wide open, let it bounce off the rev limiter, shut the key off with your foot still flat to the floor. Leave it there for a few seconds, take your foot off, wait around 30 seconds or so, turn the key back on, let the fuel pump cycle all the way, start the unit up, and then go ahead and take it for another drive in different RPMs, different throttle positions, and that'll help the IAC motor and the fuel map to reset itself. This thing is probably so far out in the left field, they can't figure out what's going on. So I'll probably try that. Just drive it around a little bit more, see how high it feels, and I'll probably try that after this thing gets nice and warm and the battery's charged up and everything, and hopefully nothing else goes wrong with this unit. So let's go ahead and throw it back in. We are already in high, and let's go ahead and give it some gas and see what happens. Spin in the rear tire a little bit. Feels pretty good and high also. Brakes feel good. Mirror doesn't stay. This thing is a rough rider, baby. Rough rider. So right now, right to reverse, no problem. Catches right away. All the way up to low without a problem. Right to reverse. We'll park it next to our next big project, throw it back in park. So right now, you can see we're at 1700 RPMs. Trip, hours 97. I'm kind of scared to do this, but I'm gonna do it. So right now, it's not probably warm enough, but we're gonna go ahead and do it, see what happens. So hopefully nothing bad happens. Here we go. Oh my gosh, that's such a, it's got a rev limiter, yeah, but woo, that was loud. Let off. I'm gonna wait a few seconds here. I probably counted a little fast because it just scares me sometimes. Key back on. $1,400, $1,500 RPMs. We're kind of in the wheelhouse there. 1250 is a goal. I do like that. Okay. Okay. So you can see it might have worked. We'll let it idle here for a minute just to see if we have any issues at all. You know, they always said you couldn't do that, but again, I wouldn't see why not. It's the same ECU. I know the programming is probably a little bit different inside of it, but the same ECU Delphi, the same way. I don't know why you couldn't reset it like you would all the other Delphi MT05 ECUs that you use on all these Massimos, Hisun. Well, I should say the Hisun because everybody's got something a little bit different. So yeah, right now we're idling 12, 13, 14. Back down to 14, 13. So got to bump that gas a little bit at low range. Takes right off. We'll just kind of cruise around a little bit. Like I said, it says to drive it around at all different types of throttle positions and speeds. So we're going to use load range for all that. Of course, I don't want to hammer on it from a dead stop either. sometimes you just gotta bump it a little bit, get that transmission out. So right now, we're at 14, 15, 13, 15, 14. I'm way happier than 17, 18, 19, so that looks really, really good right there. You can see it's not gonna be able to get absolutely perfect, but I'll get it as much as the ECU will let me. Let's shut off the key. We'll give it a few seconds here, because what it does once you shut it off, it's gonna reset that pintle in there for the next startup. If you give it a few seconds here to do that. Turn the key back on. Probably should be more like 60 seconds or so. Fan's going. Fires up high, like it should. And drops back down to 14, 15. (15, 14, 15, 16, 15). So you guys can see what's going on there. And then reverse, neutral, high. And then sometimes you just gotta give it a little bump to get to low. If you get stuck in a gear, again, just give it a little bump. Like park right there, just do that. These machines are not absolutely perfect, unfortunately. So let me jump out here and let's take a walk around the unit. Let's see if this cargo bed actually works. I don't know if, does the key gotta be on for this cargo bed? And that would probably be a dead, destroyed lift on the cargo bed, which is not uncommon. The CV axle boot is starting to tear a little bit, but those get full of water and take a crap. Wouldn't be the first time I've seen that. This could also be, well, that could be, oh yeah, that runs right to that. That might be what the issue is. I don't know why they have so much stuff unplugged on here. Like, I'm running around finding different things. Let's see if we can put that back in. Let me set you guys here. You're gonna fall over probably because you're on my magnetic base. There's that. And nothing from the cargo bed still. Some of these are not used. CV boot starting to rip. Yeah, that one's starting to rip also. We'll check the front ones. Front ones actually look pretty good from what I could see. No grease sticking out. But I'm over here like this. You guys are probably pointing up at everything. But I don't replace CV boots. I do axles. Yeah, I know guys are gonna go, oh my God, you don't replace CV boots. What a waste of money. I have cleaned these things, greased them back up, put them back together with them looking good. And guess what? Still snap, pop, crack, all that junk. So that's why I just go ahead and just do axles and get over with. That way the customer's not paying for boots and the time to do that and it not be successful. And then we got to pay the time to do the axles and then do the labor for that on top of that. So that's why I just do axles to get it over with. You know, he could keep those as spare, or I'm going to talk to him, see if he just wants to run them like this until they start to make noise, and then we'll go ahead and order some. He's thousands of dollars into this thing right now with everything we did. I'm out of breath. But again, guys, I'm going to call this done, fixed, over with. No need to watch me do CV axles if he does decide to do that. You saw all the things that we had problems with. I hope this helps you guys out. Again, shout out to shopdynamictools.com for sponsoring some of the tools in the video that we used. Again, e-manuals online, use discount code LimitlessPower22 at checkout to save 22% at checkout. I don't believe they have any on the Odes, but they got a ton. And you can email them and they might be able to find some. I do have a ton of stuff too. Of course, shout out to Cadet Motorcycle Doctor for all the parts and the help anytime anybody needs it. Give him a follow, or I shouldn't say follow, but give him a shout if you need parts for your Odes. And I'm putting a couple shorts out too with capacities and different things like that for maintenance on these things. So again, guys, if you haven't followed, please follow, sub, turn on post notifications, leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever it may be. You can find me on Facebook at Limitless Power Sports Service and Repair. You can find me right here on YouTube, or you can email me at limitlesspowersports78@gmail.com. Again, thanks everyone for subscribing, following along. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you on my next upload.